There was a film made back in the early 1960s called The Gospel of Matthew, and it was made by a famous Italian director called Paolo Pasolini, who was a communist. So that was an intriguing aspect of the movie right there. It was surprising that a communist would make a film about Jesus, but it was actually quite well received and even considered to be a rather reverential film. In this instance, the fact that he was a communist probably helped a lot. This was the era of big Hollywood biblical epics, and this film was notable because he didn't use any actual well-known actors. In fact, he just used people from an Italian village who acted the major parts, and there was no big Hollywood production. It was made in black and white, no big Hollywood production values, no big battle scenes, no stirring crucifixion scenes or anything like that. As I recall, it is actually some years since I've seen the movie. It was a very small-scale production, and the film was lauded because a couple of the actors who, as I say, were just locals, put in, quite creditable performances. And of course, it was a completely different take on the normal Hollywood treatment of Jesus and the gospel story. One thing in the movie that always intrigued me, and I never could get my mind around it, was that a lot of the characters in the movie wore these giant big hats, which made them look, rather ridiculous. Of course, these are his sanctimonious accusers from the Jewish establishment. And being the astute observer and form critic that I am, I rather suspected that this was a deliberate ploy on the part of the director to make some point. But over the years, I never really thought much about it, although it was probably my standout memory of the movie. And now, just moving ahead a little bit to the ABC's Q&A program, which features a trenchantly leftist panel with a committed leftist presenter before a totally leftist audience, which the ABC claims is, picked at random, to reflect all political values. Yeah, that's really right. Ranging all the way from radical leftism all the way over to extreme leftism. And they have a so-called conservative on the panel who is the sacrificial lamb for everybody to laugh at, That's if he is, some kind of genuine conservative, but frequently their idea of a conservative is what I call a Fraser conservative, who's so far to the left that, what we call in Australia today a lino, a liberal in name only, which assumes that the Liberals are conservative, which they're not really. They're really just Labor light. Some years ago, I used to watch this program. A little bit later on, having to deal with the nauseatingly leftist bias of the program, I would just watch a little bit. Now and again, I might say that another member of my family is an avid watcher of Q&A, which is the only reason it was on in our household. So then I got to a point where I might watch it for a few minutes until the nauseating leftist bias just drove me from the room. And then it got to a point, it graduated to a point where I would simply ask, who's in the program tonight? And wondering whether they had any kind of decent conservative on the program. Then it got to another level where I was just so disgusted by the constant leftist drumbeat. It got to a point where I just couldn't stand hearing the voices of these people. Their actual voice was starting to sort of just irritate me. I just can't stand listening to these people. I just can't stand the sounds emanating from their mouths. But at some point, I made this strange connection. Just something popped into my head, and I thought, when you look at these leftists on Q&A, who are everybody's more left-wing than the next guy, which is an idea I developed working in the public service. At morning tea times, public servants are generally trenchantly leftist, and I developed this idea that one was always more leftist than the other, which was kind of like an auction of everybody bidding up to be, to be more leftist than the next guy, which is the subject of another video about how leftists engage in identity politics, which is very much a case of, oh, are you left-wing? Are you one of us? They come out with their leftist sloganeering. They just want to know if you're on their side, like supporting a football team. It really is on just that level. I mean, no analysis, no substance, just are you one of us? This is the subject of another video in which I'll relate that when I was at uni, if you were winning debating points, it would just come down to, look, are you one of the beautiful people or aren't you? Are you one of us, Anyway, the point that I was coming to was that I had this mental picture of Q&A and other forums for political discussion where the most nauseatingly morally and intellectually superior personalities should wear really big hats. And, the bigger the hat, the more sanctimonious you are. Because I think this would go down really well on Q&A. I can just see them sitting there with their big hats and feeling that, given that this is the world we're living in, that actually it is really quite stylish to wear a big hat, and the more leftist you are, the bigger, the taller the hat, and maybe the more ridiculous you look, but hey, this is 2019. Anyway, that's just a thought. Bye for now.